Hello everyone. Today we have a spooky spider. However, its motion isn't too spooky, so let's take a look and see if we can do anything about it. So as you can see, it's got this standard walking, alternating motion, whatever you like to call it. And it certainly works, but there's a couple of problems with it. And the first is, it's pretty boring. The Zook has 8 legs, but only 2 different motion times, so it looks like it's taking a walk to the shops rather than doing anything creepy. And the second is, it's got this sort of leg crossover, which you wouldn't see in the real world. You wouldn't see a spider's legs phasing into each other like this. So we'll try and fix these issues first. Now, one thing we can do is to gradually increment the motion cycles of each leg, and what this means is that the legs will be moving at a similar time to the legs next to it, and that means that at any given time the legs will be pointing in a similar direction to the legs nearby, and this should mitigate the crossover problem, and it should hopefully also make it more interesting to look at, as we will have more unique motion cycles. So since we have 4 pairs of legs, we will increment the motion cycles by 1/4. Okay, let's see how this looks. So I would say that the leg movement certainly looks more interesting. It's definitely a bit creepier. The Zook is much less stable. So why is this? Well, when the back legs are in the air, there's nothing supporting its back end, so it tips backwards. And when the front legs are in the air, then there's nothing supporting its front end, so it tips forward. So what we get is this sort of twerking movement as it rocks backwards and forwards, and that's definitely not what we were going for. So how can we improve this? How can we have the stability it had with the standard alternating movement, but have the creepiness of this wavy incrementing movement? Now, the reason the original alternating movement was so stable is because when one leg was in the air, the leg on the other side would be on the ground supporting it, and this meant that there was never a time when both legs at the back or at the front would be in the air, leaving the Zook unsupported. And we can actually achieve this with our new wavy movement. All we have to do is add or subtract half from the movement cycles of each leg on one side, and this means that every leg will be moving at the opposite time to its neighbouring legs on the other side, but it will still retain that gradually incrementing wavy style of movement. So let's do it to this side. Now let's see how this looks. That's looking much more stable, and it's still pretty creepy looking. So we've achieved this quite elaborate looking motion pattern in 2 quite simple steps, and you can apply this to a Zook with any number of pairs of legs. You just need to increment the motion cycles of each leg on one side, and then make the other legs the opposite motion cycle, so simply add or subtract half from their motion cycle. And this is how some spiders move in real life, so it's one of those cases where you could look to nature to get an actually viable motion pattern in BAMZOOKi.